The following video is intended for entertainment and educational purposes, and I do not claim the information to be legal advice. You are really encouraged to do your own research. The lawful man operating in public without commercial liability. In a world where we are ruled by paperwork, licenses and numbers, there is a question that very few people stop to ask. Can a man or a woman walk in the public, live, move and act without being tied to commercial liability? At first it sounds abstract, but at its heart it's a simple question of identity. Are we living beings under natural law, or are we legal persons under statute? So let's fire away with the lawful foundation. Before there were governments or corporations, before IDs, birth certificates and all sorts, there was simply the living man and woman. They existed under what philosophers and jurists called natural law, or in South African tradition, Roman Dutch common law. This law did not come from parliaments or presidents, it came from nature itself, from the simple truth that no one may be bound or made liable without their consent, and that every individual has a right to life, liberty and property. In Latin, our legal ancestors expressed it as volenti non fit injuria, which means to one who consents no harm is done. So if I say yea, no harm is done. It means that lawful obligation arises only through consent, harm or fraud, never by mere assumption. Under these principles, when a man or woman acts privately, in peace and not for gain, they are not in commerce. They are not trading. They are not contracting. They are simply being. And in that state of being, they hold lawful immunity from commercial liability. Now let's take a look at the legal framework. But then came the legal world, a world of statutes, registrations and public regulation. Here the living being becomes a legal person, a construct of commerce and administration. In South Africa, the Interpretation Act 33 of 1957 defines a person as including a company, body, corporate or unincorporate. This small but significant definition blurs the line between the living and the artificial. From that moment, when you interact with the public under your ID, your bank account, or your driver's license, the system assumes you are not a living being, but a commercial actor within a web of contracts. Let's make it tangible. When you drive, you do so under a license, a privilege granted by statute. When you trade or employ others, you operate under the Companies Act 71 of 2008 and the Income Tax Act 58 of 1962. Even when you simply open a bank account, you do so in a registered legal name, a name linked to your statutory identity. This world, the legal world, is the world of commerce. It is built on contracts, licenses and permissions, not inherent rights. It is a world where almost everything you do is interpreted through a lens of public law. Then look at the constitutional layer. The South African Constitution of 1996 tries to hold these two worlds together. It recognizes both natural persons, living human beings, and juristic persons, artificial legal entities. Section 8, subsection 2 states that the Bill of Rights binds a natural or juristic person if and to the extent that it is applicable. This means your rights exist in both worlds, but the obligations that attach to you depend on the capacity in which you act. Section 12 guarantees the freedom and security of the person. Section 25 recognizes the right to property, yet both are exercised and enforced through the statutory instruments, through the mechanisms of government and the courts. So when you walk into the public domain carrying an ID and a driver's license, the law presumes you are acting in commerce, not simply living in peace. And unless you make a clear distinction, Unless you speak and act from your lawful capacity, the system treats you as a legal person, bound to the liabilities of the commercial world. That implies two worlds and one reality. This is the quiet duality of South African law: the lawful, drawn from Roman Dutch common law, and the legal, derived from English administrative and commercial systems. In the lawful world, obligations arise only from harm, fraud, or voluntary agreement. In the legal world, obligations are assumed, built into the very systems we use to function. You consent by participation. That is why status correction becomes critical if you want to change that assumption. When you speak as a man or a woman, truthfully, peacefully, and without intent to trade, you stand in lawful capacity. But when you sign, register, or apply for a privilege, you step into the legal persona, the commercial fiction that carries liability. And that's the crucial distinction. You are not the ID card, you are not the number. You are the living being that the law was originally meant to protect. So can a man or a woman operate in the public without commercial liability? Lawfully, yes, as long as they act in peace, in truth, and without entering commerce. They remain under the protection of natural justice and common law, the law of right, not of regulation. But legally, the system assumes every public act is commercial. Unless the presumption is rebutted, liability attaches automatically. Status correction ensures the confusion ends and you have your preferred capacity and standing stated clearly. And so, while lawful existence remains your birthright, legal existence is the mask you wear in the marketplace. South Africa's justice system carries both heritages. Roman Dutch common law, with still breathing through its constitution and jurisprudence, while English corporate and statutory law shapes its governance. No statute can make away what is inherently lawful, but neither will the state recognize lawfulness unless you assert it with the knowledge and honor required. To operate lawfully in the public without commercial liability is not to rebel. It is to understand, it is to know the difference between acting in private right and acting in public commerce. It is to stand as the living man or woman, not the name in capital letters. In the words of Ulpian, one of the fathers of the Roman law, justice is the constant and perpetual will to render to each his due. And in the spirit of South Africa's own constitution, everyone has the inherent dignity and the right to have their dignity respected and protected as per Section 10. To live lawfully is to live truthfully, to honor both worlds, but to remember which one truly defines who you are. This has been The Lawful Man, an exploration of freedom and responsibility and the quiet line between the lawful and the legal in the modern world. If you would like to form part of a growing movement of men and women building a new world with a good understanding of lawful and legal, the freedoms and love and respect that we all want to live in, visit the South African Assembly website at www.thesouthaafricanassembly.org today and find your place in writing your history.